When Anna Dearman steps onto the stage of the Jack Palmer show, the audience erupts. It's her first interview since being announced as the new lead in the upcoming John Wick film. Beside her sits Keanu Reeves, calm, as always quietly observing but host. Jack Palmer isn't there to celebrate. He's there to provoke, to belittle, and to turn the interview into a spectacle of arrogance masked as humor. What Jack doesn't realize is that in just a few minutes the one left speechless won't be Anna. It'll be him, and what Keanu says that night no one will ever forget. Before we continue this story, let us know where you're watching from. And if you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another special story for you. The studio felt like it was holding its breath. Spotlights cut through a dark, polished stage, gliding across a sea of face, packed tight into every seat. The audience buzzed with that unique mix of curiosity and suspicion, the kind you feel right before a scandal breaks or a legacy is rewritten. A low hum of suspense pulsed beneath the noise. On the massive screen behind the stage, glowing in crisp white letters over a pitch-black background, the words appeared: "The Jack Palmer Show exclusive." The new era of John Wick phones were raised. People whispered, and somewhere in the crowd a sign read, "Don't mess this up, Jack." The lights dimmed. A heavy beat kicked in, bass synth tension. Then came the voiceover, smooth and cocky. "She's the new name behind the bullet. He's the legend." Who started it all together for the first time? Ana de Armas and Keanu Reeves. This is not a reboot. This is war. The screen cut to black, and then light. A spotlight burst open on center stage. Jack Palmer stepped into it with that signature grin, too white, too wide, too rehearsed navy suit, black shoes polished to a mirror shine. He looked like a man who had prepared for this moment, not with curiosity, but with ammunition. The crowd applauded, not quite, cheering more, like testing the waters. He stood, in silence for just a second, soaking it in. "Good evening," he said. "Tonight we are not here to promote a movie." Pause, smile. "We're here to witness history, or depending on who you ask, the murder of it." Laughter, some amused, some uncertain. Jack began to pace. John Wick, a man who buried grief with bullets, who built a myth out of silence and vengeance. A man who, and let's be honest, became a religion. He stopped, leaned in, and now he wears heels. Nervous laughter. Jack raised an eyebrow, riding the wave. "Ladies and gentlemen, she's here, she's armed, she's dangerous, and she's not Keanu Reeves. Please welcome Anna Dearman." The crowd lit up. Anna walked onto the stage with quiet fire. All black, tailored, sleek, simple, no sparkle, no gloss, just presence. Her steps were measured, her smile controlled, but here, yes, sharp as glass. She shook Jack's hand briefly. No extra warmth. He gestured to the sleek leather couch she sat, and of course Jack continued. "We couldn't talk about John Wick's future without paying our respects to its past. A beat, you know him, you feared him, you probably considered getting a dog because of him. The man, the myth, the reason you lock your doors at night." Keanu Reeves. The audience erupted. Keanu walked on stage with the weight of silence. Dark blazer worn, jeans, black t-shirt, a small cross necklace peeked out from his collar. His face was calm, almost soft, but his posture never lied. He gave a small wave, then sat beside Anna. Jack took a moment, looking between them. "Well," he said, "if a gunfight breaks out, I'm definitely not the one walking off this stage." Through laughter. That one landed. Jack folded his hands, leaned back so the internet's broken fans are screaming. Critics are confused, and the big question everyone's asking: What happened to John Wick? He turned to Anna because from what I hear he now shops at Prada. The room stiffened. Anna smiled politely, nodding once Jack smiled wider. No, seriously. Is the Continental serving cocktails or contour tutorials now? Laughter. This time, more restrained. Anna adjusted the microphone. There's still blood, she said, just better lighting. A few claps, a couple of chuckles. She held the moment well, but Jack wasn't finished. Be honest, he said. When they offered you the role, did you think, wow, me, the next John Wick? Or did you think they must be running out of guys? Anna's smile didn't move. She looked at Jack. Thought finally a chance to stop asking for permission. That landed hard. Scattered applause grew louder. Jack blinked slightly, thrown off. He pivoted. But let's be fair. John Wick is a legacy. It's not just guns and grit, it's Keanu. He turned to the man beside her. Keanu, my man, you've played Wick for nearly a decade, and now you're watching someone else pull the trigger. What's that like? Keanu didn't answer immediately. He rested his hands on his knees, looked at Jack, then at the audience, and then back to Jack. Pain doesn't have a gender, he said. And neither does vengeance. Silence, then applause, heavy, honest, rising in waves. Jack chuckled, but his fingers twitched slightly. So here you're saying, he continued, it's not about the suit or the scar, and it's about the soul. Keanu nodded once Jack leaned forward again, as if to whisper something scandalous. So let me ask you this, and I say this with love. Are you training Anna in gunplay? Or just sitting back while your franchise becomes a fashion ad thumbnail? Audience murmured. Keanu didn't move. His voice was quieter this time. Do you know why people feared John Wick? He asked. Jack blinked. It wasn't the guns. It wasn't the kills, it was what he carried. Every step. Every shot. It was loss. He turned toward Anna. And that she understands. Anna looked at him, and for the first time that night, something real flickered behind her calm. The room felt different now. But Jack smiled like nothing had changed. Okay, he said, raising his hands. Let's not get sentimental. I'm just saying this is a franchise that made masculinity sexy again, and now it's eyeliner and elegance. A few nervous laughs, mostly silence. Anna didn't look at Jack this time. She looked at the camera. Maybe it's time people realized, she said, that strength doesn't always come with stubble. The audience roared. Jack tried to recover, standing slightly as if to break the tension. Well, folks, he said, grinning wide, if nothing else, the new John Wick is going to be stylishly fatal. He turned back to Keanu. Unless you plan to steal the show again, or maybe teach her how to brood in the rain. The smirk was back. Keanu tilted his head slightly, and just for a second that calm disappeared. What was left in its place wasn't anger. It was something colder, sharper. He didn't speak. He just looked, and in that silence the room held still. The audience shifted in their seats. Jack didn't know it yet, but something had cracked. Anna reached for her mic, smiling tightly. Composed but distant, Keanu's eyes locked onto Jack. No more. Warmth, no more. Amusement, just presence. The crowd could feel it. This interview wasn't going to follow the script. Jack sat back, legs crossed, eyes gleaming. The crowd had started to settle, but the air still buzzed with the aftershock of Keanu's silence. Jack could feel it. The tension, the curiosity, the edge. He smiled. Okay, he said, raising his hand slightly. Let's reset the mood, no need to shoot anyone yet. Scattered laughter. Jack turned to Anna. Let me just ask though, and this comes from love, he said with mock sincerity. Do you really think the John Wick fan base is ready for lip gloss and slow-mo gunfights set to Billie Eilish? A few people in the audience laughed, but the sound was thin. A couple of women in the front row exchanged glances, raised eyebrows, tight lips. Anna didn't blink. I think they'll be ready for precision, she said. And a clean kill. Jack chuckled, trying to keep it light, so no bubble baths between assassinations. Anna smiled, but her voice was iron. You're confusing femininity with fragility. That's your problem, not mine. A ripple moved through the room. Jack hesitated. Not long, just enough. Then he leaned forward, elbows on knees. All right, real question. He dropped the fake grin for a moment. Let himself sound genuine. You're stepping into a franchise built on a very specific kind of energy. Brutal, minimal, hyper-masculine. Are you not worried that putting a woman at the center of it might dilute that silence? Even the audience froze. Anna stared at him for a second. She didn't look angry. She looked surgical. The only thing that dilutes a story, she said, is when it stops evolving. Jack opened his mouth, but she kept going. And maybe the problem isn't a woman taking the lead. Maybe the problem is some people thinking that violence only has value when it's delivered by a man. The crowd responded when stronger. Now applause. A few cheers. Jack forced a laugh. His fingers tapped the cue cards in his lap. He looked at Keanu. Keanu, he said, voice lighter. Help me out here. Isn't there something off about all this? Wick was a man of focused determination, rage. He pointed at Anna with an open palm. And now it's all cheekbones in slow motion. Doesn't that feel, I don't know, like parody? Keanu didn't answer, right? He looked down, then back up. There was no smile this time. No, he said simply. Jack raised his eyebrows. That's it. Keanu shrugged. You talk a lot about violence, he said. But you don't seem to understand what drives it. Jack leaned back, pretending to be intrigued. Oh, please enlighten me. Keanu looked at him, unblinking. Loss, grief, being told you don't belong in your own story. He glanced at Anna. And if you think only men carry that, you haven't been paying attention. The applause came harder, this time louder. Real, a woman in the second row clapped first, then the rest followed. Jack kept smiling, but his shoulders tensed. Okay, he said, laughing it off. Now we're getting deep. He shuffled the cards in his hand like a magician preparing a trick. Let's go back, he said, aiming for humor again, to the very beginning. You know, I read somewhere that when Anna got the call for the role, she was in the middle of a spa weekend. Is that true? Anna turned her head slowly toward him. No, she said, I was training 6 hours a day. Jack blinked. Oh, so not a mani-pedi montage, then silence. Anna leaned in. If I were a man, would you ask if I got the role in the middle of a beer in a football game? The audience exhaled like a punch had landed. Jack opened his mouth, but Keanu spoke. First, she trained harder than anyone I've seen, he said, voice even including me. Jack looked between the two. He could feel the walls closing, not from a fight, but from something worse, conviction. He tried one more jab. Well, he said, grinning, at least you could admit you're passing the baton, right? Then he turned almost playfully and aimed it straight at Keanu. You're basically the mentor now. Doesn't it feel weird? Sitting there watching the John Wick franchise become not about you. Keanu didn't flinch. His jaw set, his hands folded. The pause before he spoke was just long enough to make Jack sweat. Keanu leaned forward slowly. His voice didn't rise. It got quieter, but it carried. You think this is about being the center? He looked Jack in the eyes. It's never been about that. The studio was dead silent. Jack opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Something had shifted. Keanu sat forward slowly, elbows resting on his knees, hands calmly clasped. His voice was quiet. No show, no drama. Just wait What made John Wick legendary, he said, was never his gender. It was the pain, the discipline, the silence, the code. He looked at Jack and Anna carries that outfit. The crowd reacted instantly. Applause, murmurs, people nodding. Jack let out a forced chuckle, trying to shake off the sting. "All right," he said. "Okay, so now Wick's a woman carries pain, rage, and a great contour line." He grinned. "Anna, tell me, is the kill count lower now because you're multitasking between gunfights and skincare tutorials?" The laughter this time was awkward. Fewer laughs, more eye rolls. The studio's atmosphere tightened again. Not from excitement, but from collective discomfort. Anna didn't take the bait. "I didn't take this role to prove anything to you," she said, "or to anyone who thinks femininity is a punchline." Jack raised a hand in mock surrender. "Whoa, relax, it's just jokes." Keanu leaned back, now slower, letting the silence stretch. Then he looked at Jack with something new behind his eyes. Not anger, just exposure. "Maybe that's the problem," Keanu said. "Some people only know how to hide behind jokes." The crowd stilled. Jack blinked. Thagrin faltered for a half second. "Careful, Keanu," he said, voice tighter. "Don't go all monks on me. This is still entertainment." Keanu tilted his head slightly. "Right, and you're still trying to turn discomfort into a punchline." Jack looked down at his cue cards, but the words felt smaller now. He flipped to the next one, smiled. "Let's talk emotions, since that's apparently the new ammo in Wick's world." He looked at Anna, then back to Keanu. "You really think people want a Wick story about feelings? What's next? Grief counseling and bullet time?" Anna crossed her legs slowly, almost like she was grounding herself. Keanu answered, "No, they want to see the truth. They just don't expect it to look like her." That line hit like a bullet without sound. The audience erupted into claps. A man in the back stood up briefly and raised a fist before sitting again. Jack tried to pivot. "Okay, so Wick's not just blood and bullets anymore. He's introspection too." He forced a laugh. "I got to admit, this version feels like a TED Talk with silencers." Keanu didn't laugh. He smiled, but not kindly. "Maybe what scares you," he said, "is the idea of seeing emotion where you only ever saw a pose." Jack blinked. For the first time, he had no comeback, no punchline. The crowd silent. It was like the power in the room had shifted hands, and Jack didn't even notice it leaving. He tried again. "Well," he muttered, "you two are certainly intense." Keanu leaned back into his seat, crossing one leg over the other. "We didn't come here to entertain you," he said. "We came here to represent something that matters." Anna didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her presence, her stillness, it was more than enough. Jack shuffled his notes again. He was off rhythm, losing control, and he knew it. So he changed strategy, dropped the jokes, went for something personal. He turned toward Anna, voice slower now. "Lo, you've come a long way," he said. "From Havana to Hollywood. That's a movie in itself." Anna didn't respond. Jack continued, almost too casual. "Tell me, how many producers did you have to kill to get this role?" The audience froze. No laughter, just oxygen leaving the room. Anna sat still. Her fingers gripped the edge of the couch just for a second. Then she looked at him, calm. Dead calm. "I didn't have to kill anyone," she said. "I just had to work twice as hard." "But you wouldn't understand that." The audience stood a standing ovation. Jack forced a laugh, but his smile cracked. For the first time that night, he didn't look amused, he looked exposed. And Keanu, he didn't even blink. The studio was quiet. The kind of quiet that vibrates. Jack shifted in his seat, tried to smile again. But something had changed. His tone was still light, but his eyes had hardened. There was something calculated now, desperate even. "Look," he said, chuckling dryly. "I didn't mean anything by it. I just think your journey is wild." He leaned back. Havana to Hollywood. From Spanish soap operas to shooting stunt doubles in the face, it's impressive, I mean seriously. Who do you thank for that? Your agent? Your accent? Murmurs rippled across the audience. Anna didn't move, didn't blink. Jack wasn't finished. "I mean, you were cleaning houses in Cuba, right? Now you're out here cleaning out movie roles." He laughed as if expecting the audience to follow. They didn't. A few gasps, a cough, silence. The camera cut to a woman in the front row. Her arms were crossed, jaw clenched. Anna looked down for a second, then she lifted her head and spoke, voice low, steady. "I was cleaning houses, yes. I was also memorizing scripts between shifts." Jack shifted. "I walked into auditions with the wrong shoes and the wrong accent. I got rejected more times than you've told jokes. Tonight, and I kept going." The crowd stirred. Anna kept going, voice unwavering. "What scares you isn't my accent, Jack. It's the fact that a woman with it made it here without your permission." The applause came like thunder. It started with one person, then spread, clapping, whistling, a standing ovation from the left side of the audience. Keanu stayed seated calm, but he was clapping too. Jack sat frozen. His grin was stiff now, mechanical. "Wow," he said. "So we're playing the dignity card now." He turned toward the audience like a stand-up comedian losing his crowd. "Guys, come on. It's not like I'm the bad guy here." Silence. Then he turned sharp toward Keanu. "Okay, you've been quiet, Reeves, but let's be real. You're not the face of this franchise anymore. You're what the Obi-Wan, now the wise old ghost," he smirked. "Doesn't it sting watching someone else take your spotlight?" Keanu didn't answer. Not at first, he exhaled. Slowly, eyes closed, then opened them. And when he spoke, it was with the weight of someone who'd seen too much to care about ego. "You ever see a torch pass from one hand to another?" Jack hesitated. "Sure." Keanu tilted his head. "Ever see someone say the flame lost value just because it's in a different hand?" That line hit hard. The audience exploded, people stood, clapped, some even shouted. It was the kind of moment that lived beyond the show. The kind that would be quoted, clipped, turned into fan art and tweets. Anna looked at Keanu, not smiling, but there was something in her eyes, recognition, respect. Jack laughed nervously, looking down at his notes. "Anything to regain control." "Okay, that was poetic," he muttered. "Real Zenwick of you." He flipped the page, changed his tone. "Let's talk about relevance." He turned toward Keanu again, voice softer now but laced with something sharp. "You're what, in your 50s, still doing your own stunts?" Pause. "Isn't there a part of you that wonders if Hollywood has moved on from you, from this whole myth?" The words lingered. In the air, Keanu saw it, still unbothered, then smiled just a little. "You ever watch a sunset, Jack?" Jack blinked. What? Keanu nodded. "Doesn't make it less beautiful. Just because night's coming, silence and then eruption." The crowd went wild. Jack stared. Unable to answer, Anna closed her eyes for a second, breathed in and smiled softly. But Jack wasn't done. He had one more card. And this time he was going after something deeper. Something sacred. Jack was smiling again. But this time it wasn't confidence. It was survival. The last few exchanges had left him bleeding but still breathing. He was losing the audience and worse, the momentum. His eyes flicked from Anna to Keanu and back again. He needed to assert control. Fast, he went quiet. Let the silence stretch just enough to feel intentional. Then casually, almost friendly, he spoke. "You know what I've always admired about you, Keanu?" Keanu didn't answer. He just looked. You don't chase relevance. Jack said you don't post your lunch on Instagram. You don't start drama. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. But let's be honest in this business, if you're not the center of attention, you're background noise. And now you're sitting on the couch while someone else holds the gun. He smiled. Isn't that a little tragic? Keanu blinked once. You're still here. But the story moved on. Another beat. The audience shifted. Tension crawled back in, not from Jack's words but from what they revealed. His desperation. Keanu didn't take long to respond. No. He said simply, "It's not tragic." Jack raised his eyebrows. "No, it's necessary." The crowd hushed. Keanu continued, voice steady, grounded. "There's a difference between fading and stepping aside. One is fear, the other is choice." He looked at Anna, then back at Jack, and echoes that hit like a punch. Jack chuckled, leaning back like it didn't matter. "So you're the wise elder now? A living tribute." "Cool." He waved a hand toward the audience. "But let's be real. The internet moves fast. This generation, they don't remember actors. They remember moments, memes, noise. You're a sunset, beautiful. Yeah, but fading has murked. When the light's gone, what's left?" Keanu's smile returned. Subtle, reflective. "You ever light a fire, Jack?" Jack hesitated. "Yeah, then you know." Keanu said that a flame can spread without burning out if it's passed right. The audience clapped again. "Harder, longer." Jack forced a grin. "But you're passing it, let's not forget that." Keanu nodded. "And proud of it, but aren't you afraid?" Jack asked, voice lower now. "That one day this chair will be empty. That the name Keanu Reeves will be just a reference." Keanu looked at him, still quiet. Then he spoke. "You only worry about being forgotten," he said, "when you know you never gave anyone a reason to remember you." Silence. Jack's lips parted, but no words came. Anna stared at Keanu, and then gently she nodded. The audience stood clapping, cheering, some with tears in their eyes. Jack sat back for the first time, unsure of who he was on his own show. The crowd was still standing. Jack wasn't. He sat slouched legs, uncrossed now, the cards in his hand slightly bent at the corners. His smile, and what remained of it, was now a mask cracked at the edges. But he wasn't done. Not yet. He glanced at Keanu's neck, at the chain, a small silver cross barely visible beneath his black shirt. And there it was, the angle, the one thing left untouched. He straightened up, tapped his fingers on the arm of the chair, then leaned forward. Voice light but dipped in condescension. "You still wear that cross, huh?" Keanu didn't react. Jack tilted his head, squinting slightly. Didn't think there was room for that kind of thing in Hollywood anymore. Faith, spirituality, all that old soul stuff. A few uneasy laughs. Anna stiffened slightly beside Keanu, her hand resting on her lap, unmoving but tense. Jack went on. "I mean, come on. Aren't you worried it makes you look a little outdated, like a guy clinging to beliefs while the world moved on?" Still no response. Jack pushed a little further. "Don't get me wrong, it's sweet really, but you're the guy who reloads clips with one hand. Now you're preaching about meaning." He grinned. "Feels like a different kind of fiction." Keanu's hand moved, not abruptly, just slowly. He raked up and touched the cross gently with his fingers, not to show it, but to feel. Then he looked up, calm, clear. "The cross doesn't make me old," he said. "It reminds me I survived silence." He kept going. "I wore this long before cameras followed me, before premieres, before Wick. It wasn't part of a brand. It was what kept me standing when fame couldn't." Anna glanced sideways at him, her eyes soft now but proud. Jack opened his mouth, trying to bring it back to irony. "But do you really think?" Keanu cut him off. I don't think he said I know. His voice dropped lower, not angry, just grounded. This isn't about religion. It's about remembering that we're not everything. He turned to the audience. Now fame inflates, ego lies. But when you lose someone, when you fall apart in the dark, you don't look for applause. You look for something to hold. Onto the studio went still. Even the light seemed quieter. A camera slowly zoomed in on the cross, just a flicker of silver. Nothing flashy, nothing loud, just present. Keanu looked back at Jack. I don't wear it to prove anything, I wear it so I don't forget to. The crowd erupted, but this time the applause wasn't loud. It was deep. People didn't just clap, they felt it. Some stood, others sat with hands clasped. A man in the back wiped his eyes. A young woman whispered something to her friend who nodded. Stunned. Jack, he said, nothing for once, nothing until. So when it's all over, he said, his voice suddenly quieter, more bitter. When the lights go out, when no one remembers Keanu Reeves or Ana de Armas, what happens? Then Keanu didn't respond right away. He looked at Jack, and then slowly. He smiled. Not smug. Not dramatic, just calm. The kind of calm that comes after truth has already won. The question hung in the air like smoke. When it's all over, when no one remembers, Keanu Reeves or Ana de Armas, what happens then? The audience wassailant. Even the cameras, still rolling, seemed to hesitate. The entire studio had gone weightless, like time had been paused, waiting for someone to breathe. First, Keanu looked at Jack. No anger, no defense, just a quiet clarity. He leaned forward slightly, folding his hands, and then, with a voice that didn't ask to be heard but had to be, he answered, "The question was never what they'll remember about me." Pause. The real question is what they'll remember about you. Silence, no reaction, no defense. Jack blinked. His lips parted slightly, but nothing came. The words settled over him like dust, soft but heavy. The audience didn't erupt. Not at first. They stood, one by one. No cheers, no whistles, just silence, but a silence charged with meaning, with respect. A kind of reverence usually reserved for endings. Not of shows over us. Ana stood beside Keanu. She didn't look at Jack. She looked out at the crowd. Then she picked up her mic. Her voice was steady, clean, clear. Being the protagonist isn't about gender. She scanned the room. It's about courage. A pause. Then came the sound applause. Deep, unified. Earned. Jack didn't move. He looked down at his cue cards, now bent, wrinkled, forgotten in his hands. For the first time that night he looked human. And maybe that was the real twist. The man who made a living making others uncomfortable had finally met something he couldn't deflect. Truth. The screen faded slowly. The lights dimmed. There was no closing monologue, no final joke, no outro music, just the echo of what had been said. White text fades in one line at a time. It's not about fame. It's not about who speaks louder. It's about the courage to speak last when it matters most.